Welcome, dear listeners. Today we dive into a tale of mystery, discovery, and intrigue, one that begins in the quiet solitude of a man with a metal detector, searching for the forgotten treasures of the past. But what he uncovers is far beyond what he could have ever imagined. An ordinary morning transforms into a journey that unravels secrets buried beneath layers of time, silence, and secrecy. Join me as we uncover what lies hidden in the shadows of history, where every clue leads to more questions and a mystery too big to ignore. Nathan had always been captivated by finding lost things, which is why he often explored secluded areas around his town with his metal detector. One sunny morning, as he walked along a bushy area, his metal detector suddenly signaled furiously. With his heart racing, Nathan began to excavate the site, stumbling onto something he never even dreamed of finding. As Nathan unearthed what looked like an aircraft, the insignia and marks told a shocking tale. Turning his face with disbelief, his metal detector went haywire. "Wow!" Nathan excitedly exclaimed as his metal detector went haywire. He had already found a gorgeous vintage watch a few meters down the road and was excited to see what he found this time. But as he dug through the dirt with his hands, he realized it was a lot bigger than he had thought it would be. He grabbed his small hand shovel from his backpack and carefully began to scoop away the dirt. Finally, after almost a whole day of removing dirt and grime, Nathan took a few steps back to take in what he had unearthed. It was a small aircraft. The sun was setting rapidly, so Nathan marked his location on Google Maps and headed home after taking a few photos. Tomorrow, he would come back to take a second look. He wondered who he should call. Was this a case for the police, as a crashed plane could mean foul play? Or was it something he should call a museum about? The next day, Nathan took pictures of everything. The airplane was in horrible shape, but some parts stood out to Nathan. Not because they were unharmed, but because they had familiar insignias. If only he could remember from where. Nathan was lost in thought when he suddenly heard a rustling sound behind him. Fearing it would be the police, Nathan quickly found a place to hide. He held his breath as he watched two men step out of the bushes, talking in hushed tones with each other. They clearly weren't police, but didn't look very friendly either. As soon as one of the men noticed the plane, he muttered, "Oh!" It looked like this wasn't the first time either of those men had seen the plane, as they began to cover it with foliage again. Nathan watched with anticipation, his curiosity greater than his fear. He noticed there was almost some kind of fear on the men's faces about the plane being found. "Maybe we need to relocate the plane. Let's ask the boss," one of the men said. Nathan waited until he couldn't hear their footsteps anymore before he crept out of his hiding spot. He peeled back the layers of leaves and branches until the plane was exposed once more, revealing the distinctive markings he'd noticed earlier. Nathan got closer to the plane, studying every corner and crevice. He knew this find was unusual, and he needed answers. The wing panels had some deep scratches, and he noticed something loose that might contain hidden information. After carefully prying away the loose metal panel, Nathan uncovered a dusty logbook wedged between two support beams. He opened it with trembling hands, finding pages filled with notes, signatures, and maps. Some of the handwriting was scribbled hastily, making it difficult to decipher, but he realized the information was vital. He took quick photos of the logbook before securing it in his backpack, eager to uncover its secrets. Nathan leaned in to examine the plane's markings, rubbing away grime to reveal a partially hidden serial number. He jotted it down, then stepped back to take more pictures. With the logbook tucked securely in his bag, Nathan dashed back to his car. As he drove home, he kept glancing at the logbook beside him, itching to crack it open. Once he got home, Nathan booted up his computer and loaded the photos he'd taken at the crash site. He began comparing the insignias to those in military records and aircraft databases. He made little progress despite hours of research, unable to find a clear match for the markings. Nathan decided he needed to return to the site to gather more clues. Carefully packing up his notes and gear, Nathan planned to return at dawn. Nathan's footsteps crunched softly as he returned to the crash site. He paused, startled to see the two men again. Nathan crouched low behind the bushes, observing the two men carefully. They meticulously inspected the area around the aircraft, their flashlights sweeping over the ground as they spoke quietly. When the two men disappeared back into the forest, Nathan stepped cautiously into the open. He immediately headed for the spots they'd focused on, checking for anything they might have overlooked. Clearing away the foliage, Nathan revealed another set of markings etched into the plane's body. The characters looked familiar, and he quickly compared them to the entries in the logbook he'd photographed. Determined to uncover the truth, Nathan went to the local library to search through their archives. In a dusty corner of the library, Nathan uncovered newspaper articles from the 1960s describing a mysterious aircraft disappearance. Some speculated it crashed nearby. The details were sketchy, but the stories hinted at something the military didn't want the public to know. After poring over the archives, Nathan spoke to the librarian, who offered further rumors. She mentioned a supposed cover-up surrounding the lost plane, involving military and government officials who wanted to keep it quiet. Hearing about the rumors and accounts energized Nathan to investigate more closely. He packed a backpack full of gear, tools, notebooks, and his camera, and prepared to return to the forest. This time, he'd leave no stone unturned. Determined to find any hint of the plane's origin and purpose, Nathan started digging deeper into the aircraft's history, but strange warnings soon came his way. He found notes slipped under his front door urging him to drop the investigation, and anonymous phone calls telling him to leave the site alone. Unfazed, Nathan persisted with his research. Then he noticed his internet started acting up. Suspicious of the strange activity with his home internet, Nathan decided to continue his research at the library. Nathan's library research hit a snag when system crashes and data losses interrupted his sessions. Each time he searched for specific information on military activity, the system froze or wiped out the data he'd collected. Realizing that he was being watched, Nathan began taking extra precautions. He switched to handwriting his findings in a secure journal, which he locked up after each visit. He stored his most sensitive files on an encrypted drive, making sure nobody could trace what he discovered. As the days passed, Nathan sensed the danger closing in, but he couldn't ignore the mystery surrounding the aircraft. He scoured every resource he could find and gathered rumors from townsfolk, becoming even more determined to find answers. Convinced that he was onto something significant, Nathan packed up his gear and staked out the aircraft site at night. Hours ticked by in the moonlight until he saw movement. Unmarked vehicles pulled up to the site, and a group of men emerged, scanning equipment in hand. Their focus on specific sections of the plane caught his attention. From his hiding spot, Nathan watched the men, capturing every detail with his camera. They repeatedly scanned the wreckage, pausing at the aircraft's tail and cockpit. They took soil samples and carefully bagged fragments. As the sun rose, the men packed up quickly, the scanning equipment disappearing into their vehicles in minutes. The site was deserted, as if they'd never been there. Using clues from the logbook, Nathan deciphered references to a covert military operation. He also noticed connections between dates, locations, and aircraft activity. Armed with a growing list of leads, he plotted out the operation's scope, connecting dots that had been hidden for years. It was becoming clear this plane hadn't just crashed, it had vanished deliberately. He knew he was on to something big. Nathan mapped out the intended flight path using old military maps. He carefully drew connections between where the crew had been and the data gathered from each stop. With his notes complete, he could see the journey's original objective, a missing puzzle piece that made its crash all the more mysterious. After extensive research, Nathan identified the aircraft's insignia with a secret military unit known for espionage. The unit's emblem was linked to missions kept off the record, and the covert nature of their activities was evident. He traced the symbols on the fuselage back to early intelligence operations. The unit's history was shadowed in secrecy, but he found enough to suspect their involvement. He uncovered records that linked the plane to covert Cold War missions against worldwide enemies. Nathan combed through declassified files and obscure military reports. References to the plane's tail number and the secret unit suggested the aircraft played a key role in intelligence gathering. Cross-referencing timelines, he found connections to hotspots across continents. But each discovery only deepened the mystery of why the mission was scrubbed and why its traces had been buried so thoroughly. The implications of his findings suggested revealing the plane's purpose could risk international unrest. He pored over declassified documents, weighing the value of historical transparency against the danger of international fallout. He knew that a misstep could stir up diplomatic strife, but suppressing the truth was not an option. He gathered all his research, ready for the next step. Resolved to find more evidence, Nathan decided how to handle the explosive nature of his discoveries. He would first confirm the secrets by searching every inch of the plane for clues. In a deeper search of the aircraft, Nathan found a concealed compartment beneath the cockpit. His flashlight illuminated the dusty floor, where hidden panels clicked open to reveal a secret storage space. Inside the compartment, he discovered old surveillance equipment and a sealed canister with biohazard symbols. He took a closer look at the gear, which had labels that matched the secret military unit he'd researched. The canister's symbols confirmed a specialized mission, its contents still secure despite decades of decay. Nathan carefully took photographs of the scene and recorded each detail. He placed the canister back in the compartment, knowing it held answers that would reveal everything. He realized the aircraft had been part of a biological surveillance operation during the Cold War. The mission was so sensitive that the aircraft's true purpose was hidden under layers of official secrecy. The mission's sensitive nature explained the extreme measures taken to keep the plane hidden. The plane was buried under secrecy, hidden away in an old hangar far from prying eyes. Nathan retraced the journey of the crew through logbooks and photos, understanding their sacrifices. He realized that the information gathered could have sparked international crises if exposed. Nathan glanced back at the wreck, absorbing the scale of what was kept out of public view. Should he prioritize public interest or avoid triggering diplomatic chaos? While examining the hidden compartment, Nathan was suddenly confronted by the two men, now revealing themselves as government agents. They blocked his path, their eyes locked onto the surveillance equipment in his hands. "That's classified," one said sternly. Nathan stepped back but didn't put the equipment down. "What are you doing here?" the other agent demanded, moving closer toward Nathan. They explained they had been monitoring the site to recover any remaining classified materials. They took the canister and equipment from Nathan's hands, placing them back into the compartment. "This area is a national security concern," one of the agents said. "We can't risk sensitive materials leaking out." They emphasized how the biological surveillance operation was part of a Cold War-era intelligence strategy, one that could have severe repercussions if exposed. He listened carefully, absorbing every word while the agents reiterated the seriousness of protecting national security. The agents offered him a deal to remain silent, emphasizing the importance of national security. They made it clear that sharing this story could spark diplomatic fallout, which would affect international relations for years to come. Nathan agreed to keep the secret, understanding the potential harm its disclosure could cause. Nathan took one last look at the aircraft as they prepared to dismantle it, his decision made with a heavy heart. The agents moved quickly to secure the site, removing the aircraft and all evidence of the operation with practiced precision. They swept the hangar and erased every trace. Nathan walked away from the scene, carrying the heavy burden of the secret and the relief of resolution. Despite the secrecy, he felt he had done the right thing by letting history remain buried. He gave the agents a final nod before leaving. He kept a fragment of the aircraft's insignia as a personal memento of his journey into the shadows of history. The small, jagged piece bore the faint symbol of the secret military unit. He tucked it into his pocket, a reminder of the truth he'd glimpsed but couldn't share. Nathan knew he'd never forget this day. Every time he felt the cool metal against his fingers, he would remember the agent's solemn warnings. This journey had given him new perspective on the hidden world of intelligence, the fine line between revealing the truth and safeguarding national security.